Welcome to AwakenHer, the podcast where women find their strength and transform their pain into power. I'm Corissa Stepp, your guide on this journey of healing, growth, and empowerment. Here we share the real stories of women who have faced life's toughest challenges and emerged stronger, together with expert insights to light your path forward. Whether you're seeking to heal, grow, or empower your life after heartache, AwakenHer is here to show you that not only is change possible, but you are capable of achieving more than you ever imagined. Let's dive into today's episode and take another step towards becoming your most empowered self. Hey everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AwakenHer. I'm your host, Corissa Stepp, and today I'm going to be chatting with Edith Kiss, who is a holistic mentor, success habit coach, #1 bestselling author, humanitarian award winner, and international speaker. Let's just go to say that she is highly acclaimed, and we are very lucky to have her here today. She specializes in guiding individuals from misery to peace within 30 days by integrating ancient healing techniques with neuroscience. As the host of the Release with Ease show, Edith empowers clients to release deep-seated traumas and align with their true selves. Her journey from a 15-year career in petroleum engineering to holistic healing exemplifies her commitment to transformation and personal growth. Edith, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, Corissa. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I'm really excited because you have had such a diverse journey. You've really done a lot of different things in the course of your life, in the course of your career. And so, that's everything from like spiritual practices to energy healing to petroleum engineering and trauma work. I would really love to hear from you if you can share a moment in your life that first kind of woke you up to wanting to kind of step more into the spiritual and energy healing space.
Yes, so I believe it happened when I was looking for some solution for my panic attacks. So it was in my teens when first I experienced panic attacks, and I just didn't know what it is first and how to handle it. And then I didn't want to take medication because first they gave me one and then I didn't like the effect. So then I was like, okay, this is not the way I want to go. So then I searched, and then I also met someone close by who was getting already Reiki healings. So she explained me about that. So I was like, okay, that sounds great. So I started to first having sessions, then obviously I started to learn it, and that was the first time I had to like step into higher dimensions and to invoke the energies from the divine, and then believing that actually what I can't see still exists, so not
Yeah.
just the visible. So that was the first step.
Wow, that's super fascinating and interesting. And so from there, what led you kind of to like study it a little bit more professionally, in a capacity where now you decided to maybe make that switch into helping others after using energy healing tools to kind of help cure yourself of these panic attacks that you were having?
Yeah, so for like another 15 years, it was just my hobby, my sanctuary, where I felt like I'm connecting with like-minded people, I am in peace, I'm having fun at the same time, and exploring more deeper into the spirit world. So I was attending like retreats, like extrasense retreats or family constellation therapies and more Reiki sessions, like, and more Reiki labels, like label 1, label 2, and then eventually the master label. And then when I did the master label, that was the time when I also moved to New Zealand with my family for a while. And then that's when I felt first like it would be so cool if I could do it as a business, but I wasn't, eligible. I couldn't do it because of the immigration stuff. So I didn't do it as a business. I was just doing it for free for my neighbor or, whenever I felt it. And it stayed like that for a while, and then I started to move into like meditations. I connected with some people who were doing meditations, and then I liked how they were doing it, and then I felt like, oh, I would share this with others. So that was like a year when I felt like, oh, I actually want to share healings and meditations with other people. And that was the time when I was introduced and invited for a karma yoga healing event, first to translate, but then I ended up staying there for a meditation and listening, for the parts. And then it was really flabbergasted the knowledge the Indian guru was sharing there about mindfulness, how it's connected with energies and meditations, and we were activating the pineal gland. So that was like a really huge shift, like experiencing that is such an easy, gentle technique can make such a big shift. And then I started to have breadcrumbs from the universe, like synchronicities and serendipity. And then I felt really calling to move to actually to London with my children and establish my healing business, because it was such a profound technique, the source memory healing as well, which it was also in the karma yoga healing modality. So
Wow, that's fascinating. I know we had had this conversation before we kind of hit record a few weeks ago, but I know that you talked a lot about like ancestral healing. And so I kind of really wanted to have that conversation with you because I think for so many of my listeners, they're doing the work, right? They're trying to do the work on themselves. And sometimes we can continue doing the work, doing the work, doing the work, and we still can feel like we're stuck. And I think sometimes that comes back to generational or ancestral trauma that maybe needs to either be cleared or be worked through, or has created some sort of maybe limiting beliefs within us that we're not even consciously aware of. And so I really wanted to kind of turn the conversation in that direction, if you don't mind. And if you could share with us, how does ancestral trauma impact us? And how does it potentially hold us back? And what can we do to start to work with it or work through it?
yeah, so I would more elaborate like all the effects of the ancestors on us, because it's not just their trauma, but also their karma and also their certain spirits in our close, how can I say this, in our environment, basically. So it's like there are more ways how they impacting us. And the first time I actually came across this, like, oh, we need to actually heal ancestors, was the family constellation therapy. And then I was really like, it was an eye-opening situation to see that we can actually talk to those or feel their feelings, and then change even their feelings and emotions and heal them by inviting them into our body and then having a conversation. Like, for example, we came up like there was a pattern, and the pattern was coming out in your life as, for example, not accepting certain situations in your life, getting triggered by your partner, or not being criticized or judged by your partner, and having like more masculine energy. And then it was going back to the pattern, like your grandma was actually left alone after a divorce, and then she was too masculine because she had to take care of the whole family. So she created a pattern of like being that strong woman and then not allowing to have help. And then so that you can actually inherit that energetic pattern through beliefs, as you were talking about as well, like beliefs like how is the best way to do certain things. And it's just going through from one person to the other, it is going into your mom and then from mom to you. So that's how you inherit things. And you invoke those spirits and then invite them into this family constellation therapy. And then in there you create a peace between these spirits, actually, like you create again the harmony and peace and love between spirits, and then even it has to build in the whole family like a completion, like everybody accept each other, everybody love each other, forgiveness is happening, and then also love is happening. So that's really important to create, to make it right, the family constellation therapy. And then eventually, and what I felt that after a family constellation therapy, like in a couple of weeks time, suddenly the ripple effect, the waves just hit into my current reality from that healing. It was felt like an overnight, it was really sudden, but it took a couple of weeks after the healing. So what is the difference from that family constellation therapy and what I do now is that, which means in the meditation we transcend, we go into the transcendental state, theta or delta brain waves, so then we can connect with the family unconscious. And in the
Mm.
family unconscious we can have this kind of inner conversation, this inner healing through this meditation, when coming up the patterns and then you healing it and then you having the answers within you through doing this meditation. So it's really powerful and is really making it much easier and shorter, obviously. And there are also a specific meditation to do the karmic releases for the ancestors. For example, ancestors cause also karma, and you can inherit their karma. Unfortunately, it's happening. You're not just carrying your karma, but somehow does come through as well. well. And then there is a way to actually turn it back to them and also to release it and heal it, because otherwise what is happening to you is you getting into these challenges and then you need to deal with them, and many people is not there yet to be mindful about like making the best decision always, so they can change, they can actually choose the wrong decision and getting into complications and troubles and so on and so forth, and then that can ruin their life. And then we could say like, okay, then my ancestral karma ruined my life, but it was also your decision or your choice. But easier to clear it on a meditation, on an ancestral way, than actually getting through all of these challenges and being always really mindful and choosing always the best thing. I mean, if you go through a program like this, if you go through karma yoga healing, or if you practice these meditations and healings, eventually you become mindful and it's going to be easier to make the best decisions. But when you are just starting your awakening journey and everything is so blurry and so heavy, and then you feel like things just hitting you, is basically sometimes you react and then you make bad decisions, obviously.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So I have an interesting question for some people who may be listening who might have different beliefs around the soul. So for me, like personally, I believe that we all have a soul. Our soul necessarily is not tied to our current, maybe biological family. It's had its own kind of lifetime, and that might have been with different families over different times. So I guess my question is like, number one, let's talk a little bit more about like what family constellation therapy is, because some people listening may not even understand what that means. But also, when you're talking about ancestral karma and traumas, is it our birth line currently, like in the life that we're currently living in, or is it the soul's journey from the past and
So
their
yes,
relations?
yeah, it's really complex, but we need to understand that the soul family obviously is bigger than our physical family. But people in the soul family is actually changing places in the family, but they kind of continue being with you and around you. So might who is right now your dad is maybe used to be your son, or your I don't know, sister or whatever. So it's always coming back in a close environment. So you always with the same people kind of way, but in a different setup. So that's why it's soul family. It's called soul family. And the other thing we need to understand that when we get into like a relationship, like a husband, wife, like from another physical family, they become our soul family. And we also get their karma and their ancestral karma. So it's because of the DNA connection, so it's like whoever, how many partners you had, you get their DNA, then you get their karma as well. So it's makes it more heavy on you if you're not making, again, good choices. You just getting all this karma on you, and you are freaking out why is so many terrible things happening to you, because you're getting it from all the other people. So you can extend your soul family as you actually living a more active life. So if someone is growing up in a village, in the middle of nowhere, and then just living with a couple of people, their soul family is much smaller. But if you live now a more extended life, and even your business partners and even your people who just creating interactions with you and creating karma with you, they become your soul family too. So it's like it's growing bigger and bigger, and they come back into your next life or other lives to was in another position. So that's how
Interesting.
it relates. And then the family constellation therapy is basically you invite, so we need a group of people for that. So I always recommend to do family constellation therapy obviously on a physical setup, not online. That's much more safer. And then we actually invite a family into the space, and then there is one person who's dealing with an issue, that's who's coming in and say, okay, I'm having a bad relationship with my husband, or my child is maybe bipolar or autistic, or my child is this and that, and I'm having these issues. So what's happening that, okay, that person is going to sit down, and then the other people is start to invoke the souls of the families. Like, so for example, mother, father, grandpa, grandma. So why we can do that even though those people are still alive is because you are a multidimensional being. So your souls can be at the same time at different places. So we get connected with those souls. We invite them into the body, to the chosen people who's actually there and helping with this constellation therapy. And when you invoke that body, you suddenly start feeling their feelings and their emotions. It's really an amazing experience having that realization that you are able to step into other people's emotions. It's like, when someone dies, someone will say, oh, they are happy now because they don't have the pain of the physical body. But in reality, they still carry the emotional, heaviness, and then the traumas and everything with them. It's just the physical pain which left them. So you invoke those souls, and then we start a conversation, like two-person comes together and say, okay, how do you feel about that person who's in front of you? And you feel it energetically, the soul who's in me and the soul who's in the other person, we feel, and then we say, I don't like you, or I feel really angry about you, or whatever comes up. I remember once I had to be a person who had several abortions, and the person who I was against, this was my ex-husband, my husband in that reality, and the person asked me to have the abortions, and then they asked me to forgive. I was like, I'm not gonna forgive. I'm so angry, I so hate him. I was even crying, I'm sure. So all the emotions and everything was in me that I felt after so many abortions. And then you're asking me to be in peace with that person. So then there's a guide who's guiding the whole process, and that has to come up with, communication, and then, connections and whatever to make you actually at the end forgive. And that's a process, and then forgiveness has to happen to let go, the negative emotions, and then with this, finally is a peace, and there is love and acceptance. It has to happen to clear the energies, basically, and then to bring it into the light, and then bring in the light instead of like replace it with the light. So when it happens, like all the people in the family is in peace and they love each other and everybody is cool, everybody's feeling great, then we invite the person who was actually coming in with the problem into the circle. It's stepping into his own, how can I say, role. And then we also hold hands, and then we feel that it's a completion, basically, and then everybody is happy. And then the hierarchy is really important as well, because sometimes there are children who's taking on place of adults. Like, for example, there are some children in an adulthood, I would say like 40 years old, 30 years old, who starts to behave as a parent, and you start parenting your parents. You start to be like, I am the boss, I know it better, and you start like controlling your parents because you are old, you don't know this, or this is a new technology or whatever. Sometimes people are trying to boss around their parents, and this also in teenage age is start happening. The teenagers tend to feel like, oh, I'm smarter than you, mom, and then you should listen to me. And so that kind of attitude, parenting your parents, is not a good thing. It's actually causing negative patterns in the energy field, and that has to be healed too. So I'm just saying it because I'm sure many people is acting like that. I used to act like that. I used to think like, I should tell my parents what to do, but it's not true. No.
Yes, you
So
must be intuitive, because I have teenage sons, or one's almost a teenager. And yes, this is what they do. They tell me that, like, I don't know anything. They know better, that they get to be themselves. I can't tell them what to do because they're in their me era. And I'm like, yes, you get to be yourself. However, there are rules and there are boundaries, and you need
yeah, yeah,
to respect them.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that's wildly fascinating. So maybe we should just do a family constellation therapy, and we can clear that all up, because apparently there's something else going on there, maybe at a deeper level than we're consciously aware of in the
Mm.
dynamics in our house. So yeah, so once someone does a therapy session like that, I mean, what's the process from there? Like, are they still coming back for multiple sessions? Because it sounds like, because there's so much and it's so multi-layered, and like,
The next session would be about another issue, not the
okay.
same. So the same is kind of would be solved through that session most of the time, because it's just happening, and then it's like a ripple effect is ending up with you, and then you start already seeing the results in your life. So when we come back to a next session, is always about a different story. There are so many things happening. Like, one is about health issue, one is about work or relationship or child or family or whatever. There is always comes up something. So there's always something to work on to make more peace and harmony and happiness. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a part of me that is concerned that people might be listening to this and thinking everything bad that has happened to me is because of someone else, right? And we can find ourselves sometimes very much sitting in victimhood, thinking that it's because of maybe this ancestral karma or this other trauma, or because of someone else's unhealthy patterns, or maybe they're sitting here thinking now like, oh, because my husband has a lot of bad ancestral karma or trauma or things like that. And so what I don't want people to do is to walk away thinking like, this is all happening to me and it's not my fault and there's nothing I can do about it, right? Like I want people to walk away feeling empowered, like they are in choice, that you can still have influence in your actual life, that you're not at the mercy of the ancestral trauma or the other karma that other people are kind of bringing into the relationship or the family dynamics or things like that. So can we
So
like
yeah,
flip the narrative a little bit here?
absolutely. That's where mindfulness comes in. So when you are mindful, then there is three things you can control in life anyway. So there is three things you can control in life. It's your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. If you are mindful, you're practicing mindfulness and you become mindful, then you are able to control these three things. You are able to control your thoughts, always thinking positively, always having, positive assumptions and aiming to do positive things, having positive, how can I say, plans and goals, which is like impacting well the other people, right? Not causing harm and stuff. And then the emotions as well is related to that. You feel encouraged, you feel empowered, you feel happy, you feel joyful because you have good plans, you assume good things. So then the action is again a positive action. You take action when you know, okay, if I choose this, I'm not going to harm people, I'm not going to jeopardize myself or other people or the planet or whatever. So basically you actually sit back and give time to yourself to respond to the triggers or whatever is hitting you, and making the best possible choice when you know you're not hurting others, you're not hurting yourself, and so on and so forth. Then you are able to actually stop karmic cycles, and then you are actually also able to reprogram what we talked about, the trauma of the ancestors creating their beliefs and their behaviors, and that's inherited, and that you can also stop through subconscious reprogramming, because you know that, oh my god, I know how my parents are acting and then I don't like that, I don't want to be like them, and right now I feel like I am like them but I don't want to be like them. So I start reprogramming my subconscious mind, and I start to be more aware of my reactions, aware more of my things I'm doing. But sometimes when there are people with, for example, anger issues, or addictions, it's an inner work. It needs to be done with, with healing of their childhood trauma or of their, even past life trauma. So it's a different situation. If they are unable to control themselves, their behavior properly, then is something else which they need to work on themselves, So that's inner work. But definitely they have the control to actually stop karmic patterns, making better choices and not getting into the same trouble, obviously.
Yeah. So I think that, thinking positively is a good thing, right? We all want to think positively. But sometimes what I worry about is like when we're sharing that message with people who are listening is that they get into this idea that having what might be perceived as negative emotions or negative thoughts are not okay. And what they can sometimes do is it kind of creates almost this like toxic positivity where they're not allowing themselves to actually feel their emotions, right? They're almost like spiritually bypassing the ability to actually feel to heal. And I think that it's so important that we do feel to heal. We can't just continue to suppress and repress. And I think sometimes if we're like telling people like, oh, you have to think positively and do these positive affirmations and never have a negative thought in your mind or never have an experience a negative emotion, which of course there are no negative emotions. Emotions are emotions and they are literally just messengers from your body to tell you that something is not right, right? Something is off. Something either isn't safe, doesn't feel safe, or maybe something, you're being triggered by something that could be a limiting belief, right? That you're holding about yourself, and something that someone has done is leading you to believe that it means something about you, even if it doesn't, right? We're personalizing a situation potentially. And so, I always want to caution people not to kind of do that spiritual bypassing or to just overcome those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, thinking that that's the way that they're going to heal, because you have to actually become more, to your point, like mindful, but aware of how the body is also communicating to you, because it's not all from the top down. It's not like mental where we're in our brain consciously saying, positive thoughts, because if the subconscious doesn't match the conscious mind in that positive thought, then it's not going to help, right? You're going to kind of stay stuck in that cycle. We need the subconscious programming, so to say, or the subconscious beliefs to also align with those positive thoughts that maybe that we're having consciously.
So let me add to this. So when I'm
Yeah.
saying negative emotions, I'm just relating to the emotions which creating low vibration. So let's reframe it that way. Okay. So low vibrational emotions, not negative. Okay. So what is happening when you're feeling low vibrational emotions is energetically blocking your energy centers. So that's why I'm always telling people not to feel low vibrational emotions, sadness, or, like anger, or try to stop it and alchemize it to positive. Why? Because you're blocking your chakras. When you're blocking the chakras because you're feeling low vibrational emotions, it's aligned. They are aligned completely with your gland system. So every chakra is like where is a gland in your body. So when you're blocking the energy centers, you actually interfere also with the hormonal chemical production in your body, which is really also about emotions and is also affecting all your other health patterns and well-being. So that's why I always say not to feel the low vibration emotions. And when do I recommend to feel it? Obviously, sometimes you can't stop not feeling it, right? So when it's overwhelming and it's there in front of your face, then I say, okay, then find it where is the root. You need to heal the root and then it stops. How to heal the root is forgiveness. So when you go into the root, like, okay, how it makes me feel is not just about anger. It had to happen something there which was there even besides anger. There was also probably a disappointment, maybe a loss, a grief, other things. So there are so many things needs to be released at the same time just to solve that anger, and that has to be done. Otherwise the triggers will come still and you're still gonna feel those overwhelming emotions. I call it riding an emotional roller coaster. So that's why I created a 5-step method, because you also talked about the conscious decisions. So basically I created a 5-step method, and the first step is making a conscious decision. That's the first one, like, okay, I want the change, I want to heal, I want this and that. And then the second step is reprogramming the subconscious mind, the beliefs and the habits. So it's matching with the conscious decision, right? You want a goal, but you're not achieving the goal. You feel the setback because your subconscious mind is not aligned. So then you need to work on it. And then the third step is healing the emotional traumas from the unconscious mind, because if it's still there, you're still gonna self-sabotage yourself through riding the emotional roller coaster. And then the fourth one is getting aligned with the universe, basically working with higher dimensional energies. I also like to talk about astrology, numerology, because they are also affecting how you react. Like when it's Mercury retrograde, everybody's like freaking out, is like you react really differently. Like 1 week before, you would completely say different words in the same situation. Like in the Mercury retrograde, you would just snap, and then you're ruining whatever you were like snapping on, right? So it's so important to getting aligned with these energies and understand, like, okay, no, I need to be more calm, no, I need to be more, this and that, because no, I am actually more reactive because of that planetary whatever. And then the fifth step is taking inspired actions. So when you have a goal, you want to even have a healthy body, or, mindfulness, or whatever is your goal, take inspired action, which means start doing those habits, like implement new habits, meditation, samadhi meditation, to actually activate your pineal gland and start producing the good hormones, in your body on a daily basis, and so on and so forth. So implementing good habits, or changing, your behavior, or eating healthy, or taking some supplements, or whatever is needed to put you in a more peaceful state.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for kind of clarifying and like walking us through that, because I completely agree with you. I mean, yes, none of us are going to heal anything that we're not consciously wanting to heal, or that we're not consciously aware of, right? We have to have awareness. We also need to acknowledge that this is kind of what's been happening or how it's been impacting us, what we want to shift, what we want to change, and then accepting that we have that power to, number one, shift things in our life, but also accepting what has been, right? Like what has happened. And while we can't control anybody else or how they impacted us, or how the relationships maybe that we have with other people as a result of how they're showing up in the relationship, we do have power and control over how we show up in our daily lives, right? On a daily basis. And that does impact our relationships, the people around us, the outcomes that we achieve in our businesses and work, and so on and so forth. So, thank you so much for bringing that up. And I love how you said you alchemize that negative emotion that you're feeling, because that's truly what it is. It's not repressing it, it's not suppressing it, it's actually sitting with it. Because at the end of the day, most of our emotions, if we sat with them and actually allowed ourselves to feel them, they usually pass within like 90 seconds. It's not even that long. But when we repress them and we suppress them, we can sometimes sit in it for so much longer because we're not actually processing it. We're not allowing ourselves to actually feel it, get curious about it, maybe engage it in an inner dialogue with, okay, why are you showing up? What is happening at a deeper level? To your point, anger, for example, usually is masking some other deeper emotion. And sometimes it's because one of our needs is going unmet. And maybe it's an unmet need that, never even got met in childhood. And as a result, we have to learn how to, as an adult, as our truest selves, step in and maybe provide that need for ourselves in a way, right? Like whether that's our need for care, love, attention, safety, so on and so forth. There's so many different needs that we might have, but we are capable. We should feel empowered to know that our emotions are, at the end of the day, I think, trying to illuminate something for us that only helps us understand ourselves at a much deeper level, so that we can kind of be more conscious in our day and make those different decisions and shift the behaviors and everything like that. So thank you for, kind of explaining that and walking us through it, because I think that it is a really important thing for people who are on this path for healing.
Yes,
So you
absolutely.
said something that was interesting, and I wanted to kind of ask you this question so you can help, maybe define it for us, which is, you mentioned past life versus ancestral. Is there a difference? And I guess this might even go back to my previous question about, we are a soul, but I also believe that our body, our DNA comes from a genetic lineage. So I guess like that can kind of even layer again, like back to like the multidimensional beings that we are. It just feels like if you were sitting here listening to this conversation, someone could feel really overwhelmed being like, do I need to do past life work? Do I need to do ancestral work? When I do this family constellation work and these meditations, is it healing both of those things and all of those layers? Or is it just one of those paths?
It's interesting to say that sometimes, when I love to do everything, I am honest with you here right now.
Yeah.
Whatever comes to you is coming to you for a reason to do it, right? To having that information is like to try to do and see, how it works for you. So I love doing all of these techniques you learned, and I'm still, looking out to learn other techniques because I believe it's never ending, the learning and the growing, and the universe is wasted, like huge. So it's basically you want to know like everything, right? So I'm aiming to learn more and more. So when I find out these modalities and I start to use them, and then I see the results, the positive effect, obviously I keep using them, or when I see the results with my clients, obviously it's great, and then I'm happy to share it with the more clients. So what I do, like I have in my programs, I set up everything like that they can go through all of these experiences, in the programs themselves. So that's why I don't say like, okay, come for a session. I don't do that, because you can come for a source memory healing session for one issue. For example, let's say you have thyroid issue and then you want to come to me, and then I was like, okay, let's do that, and then we go into the either this lifetime or past lives. Why is it either? Because it depends on the person. Everybody is unique with a unique background, and we don't know at the very beginning like where is that rooted, that thyroid issue. Is it this lifetime or past lives? So we go into this source memory healing, we transcend through the samadhi meditation, and we call upon the unconscious mind is helping us to bring in the memories. And I have clients who ending up always in past lives, because they had such a big, past, like, how can I say, history, they were like here thousands of years with many past lives. So they ending up there healing the current issues. I have also clients who never went to past life memories, only this lifetime memories. So it's so unique. It's so different to everybody. Someone is like mixed. For example, me, me, I'm a mix. I'm doing this lifetime and past life, like whatever comes up, obviously, for the related situation. And it's always just a momentum, always just one situation, one memory, like a snap, like from that lifetime, what you need to heal, basically. So you don't see the whole lifetime. So this is not like a past life regression where you can go through the whole lifetime and then you going very deep. In source memory healing, you can just go there just to one memory and then to heal that, because that's related to your current issue. So when we do that thing, it's just gonna help them with that one issue. But then as we know, people having so many other issues, right? Is not just one thing in your life which is bothering you. And that's why in the program, I actually give access to the meditation library, where I have all the ancestral healing meditations for the ancestral karma, ancestral trauma, and also for karmic healing, which is your own karma from past lives. So that's in the meditation library, what they can do during this program. And there is also a life transformation system course, what they are listening, doing some homeworks on it, so they understand more what's going on, right? I explained there, like, what is this multidimensional existence, what is about positive thinking, what is about ancestors, what is about raising your vibration, chakras, all of this. So it's explained in that course. So when I give them access to all of these, then they can actually dive deep into these details, why we are doing the one-on-one sessions. So then at the end, they feel like more complete with the program.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love how you're offering kind of the healing at all those different levels, because I was going to ask you, is there a way for people to intuitively understand what's theirs versus what's been passed down?
I found it really, even for me myself, like when I have some issues, it's if I don't tune into those the brain waves, like the delta or the theta brain waves, and I'm not connecting with the source or the unconscious, I can't know it in a conscious level. So at least I need to go into that brain waves to transcend. So it's through a meditation, and in the transcendental level, I can go deeper and ask, basically, like either connecting with spirit guides, either connecting with ascended masters, or or with my unconscious mind, just for memories. Then I can figure out or see where is it coming from. Just consciously, it's really difficult to say.
Yeah. So I guess my next question is, again, for anyone who might be listening that's still feeling like a little bit overwhelmed, right? So I want you to definitely talk more about your program and that offering, so that people are aware of it. And then we'll leave all your contact information in the show notes and everything like that. And you can even share that as well. If they're feeling a little bit like, how do they begin to reclaim their power without bypassing the pain? Like, is that possible?
I always say that, the pain, what you actually think about here as a pain, is it the emotional overwhelm as a pain, or physical pain? Or so it's like you can't really bypass it. That's because that's your sign that you have something
Yeah.
to heal. Like without that, you don't know you have something to heal, right? If everything is great, if you don't have pain, if you don't have mental issues and emotional pain, then you don't need healing, then you are fine. Some people who say, like, okay, they got triggered, but they don't really react to triggers, they kind of like either become resilient or numb themselves. Their sign could be if they have physical illness, because some people maybe became so mindful that they can numb their feelings, or their reactions. But if there is a physical illness appearing in your life because you've done the work, like just the mindset so well, the physical illness is still showing that there is an unhealed past trauma which needs to be healed, right? So it's an other sign. So either you have a reaction to the triggers with low vibrational emotions, or either you have a physical illness, a physical situation, condition going on, then it's basically a sign that there is some root which you need to heal. Otherwise, even someone had an illness and got an operation, and then they feel like, okay, I'm fine, there is something else gonna come up as a next trigger and the next trigger to bring in some more things, if that's not healed also on an emotional level, only just physical level.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I think that like brings me back to like Dr. Gabor Mate's work, where, he's done a lot of research that kind of shows that a lot of like chronic illnesses and things like that have been linked to unresolved trauma. And once people started healing and recovering and releasing and overcoming it, they started to see a dramatic improvement in their health as a result, right? Whether it's like a lessening of symptoms or eradicating a previous diagnosis, which is, to me, it's such a powerful, powerful reminder that we are our own self healers, that we are empowered. We can do this work and have positive impacts on our physical health. Because, yes, at the end of the day, I think that anytime we're holding these deep emotional or spiritual wounds, it can impact our physical health. And yes, I agree with you 100% that those become our signs, almost like our touch points of, okay, there's something deeper here. What is this pointing towards? And I have the power to actually reclaim my health and my well being by doing this deeper work. So I
Yes.
love that.
Yeah, and basically, so you asked me how people can connect with me. So I have my website, editbkis.com. They can book a session there, like a synergy session where I can create their healing blueprint. And they can also check out my YouTube channel. I have a meditation playlist there, so they can already start listening to some of those meditations. And actually, I created my school community. So if someone is familiar with school, it's like with communities, my school community called Release with Ease, like my show. So in that community, you have a 7 days trial. You can just come in and try, because there are already the meditation library there with the ancestral healing and karma healing and the life transformation system course. The first week you can already try those. And then we have a 90 minutes every week live session with me. So we do healing, we do manifestation, we do coaching in that 90 minutes every week. So on a Zoom call. So it's really like people have time, to talk about themselves, ask questions, and we also do all of those practices. And this is a community, so you can come in and then share whatever you want to share, and then take whatever you want to take from there. So it's a really a nice community. We are already doing this for like a year, this group coaching. So yeah, you can try it for 7 days for free, and if you like it, to stay. But there are also bonuses. So if someone signs up with the payment, they already receive one bonus one-on-one session with me for source memory healing. So already one of the issue can be healed through source memory healing. That's the first bonus. The second bonus is if they stay for 6 months, then they get access to my Elemental Light Healer certification course, which is an energy healing course. And then if they stay for the whole year, then they got access to my Karma Yoga Healing Facilitator course, which is actually teaching how to do this source memory healing and karma healing and ancestral healing on a level 1 course. So that's also a bonus if someone stays for a whole year.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, you're offering so much. I love it. And I love that you are training more people to kind of do this work, because I don't know a lot of people that are doing this, right? I mean, and yes, like I'm kind of in this space, but I love the way in which you've kind of created a community element to it as well, because I think sometimes like we can learn these things and then we kind of go away and maybe we're using them with clients, but sometimes you kind of lose that community feel of like, oh wait, there are other people that are also interested in doing this. And I do believe that there's more power when we all come together with the same intention, and it can lead to faster, quicker, and different results than if we were just to kind of go out and do this on our own.
Absolutely. I went through that because when I learned this back in 2018, that was like a weekend course with the guru, and then we had another course for the advance, and then I went to a retreat. But between, I felt so disconnected, and then I felt like nobody's holding my hand. I can't ask really questions, and I felt just like left alone doing the practices myself, growing, healing. So it was a really, really hard time at the first 2 years to actually heal myself and also helping others at the same time. It was really intense. And then I felt many times alone, right? And then that's why now I provide this also for the facilitators. They have their own community as well, and they are actually practicing on each other for free. So if someone wants to become a facilitator, they already have the tools and they also have the possibility to practice.
That's really great. So thank you so much. I mean, I think that we talked about a lot of different things here, and I think that people should definitely come and check out your community, take advantage of that 7 day trial. I mean, that's like a no brainer. And then hopefully be able to have access to you and to your meditations and your guidance and your healing and all that stuff. Thank you so much for your time for this conversation. I know that I learned a lot and I found it fascinating. So thank you for your time. And listeners, we'll have all of Edith's information in the show notes so you can reach out and you can connect with her. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Corissa.
Have a great day, everyone. Be well. Thank you for tuning in to AwakenHer. Today's conversation may have ended, but your journey towards healing and empowerment is ongoing. Remember, every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow stronger and more resilient. If our stories today inspired you, consider sharing this episode with someone who needs these empowering messages. I'm Corissa Stepp, cheering you on as you take the steps to heal, grow, and transform your life. Keep believing in yourself, and until next time, stay empowered.